Today is trying to give you some ideas and share with you what's going on out there in the real world as you look at how to make more profit, because you're probably putting in a few more hours than you have in the past to make the same kind of money. Or you may find yourself putting in more hours than you have in the past and not making as much money as you did in the past. So we've got a few changes that's going on. And so let's kind of walk through some of those. First of all, the good news is supply of used cars actually is going to increase. So when you sit there going, well, used cars are hard to find, I got to tell you, it really is not true. It's just that you may not be looking outside of the traditional pond you have been looking. Now, I emphasize that because of what's happening in the new car side. So as you take a look at supply is going to increase and wholesale prices actually will start dropping again. So you got to be very careful. You're no longer just a car person. You're actually a stockbroker. As these commodities go up and down, not weekly or monthly like you used to with the Black Book, but they're coming out daily. You remember in the old days when you booked a trip with your travel agent, because that's the only way you could book a trip? Well, those travel agents used to get a book. Once a month they got a book. And when you're booking your cruise or your airline reservation, what they did was they went to the book. You went inside, sat down from them, they took out a book. And that was the price of the flight. Well, that price was good for about 30 days until the next book came out. Can you guess how prices change now? Within seconds. You look at a flight on an airline on the computer, go, well, that's a good one. I'll talk to my husband, my wife, or kids. You go back online to book the flight, price is up. You just looked at it 2 minutes ago. You go, how can that be? It's supply and demand. And you're noticing now there's not an empty seat next to you on the airlines. They're packed because flights been canceled. They're adjusting to the new market. And that's what you're going to have to do, is adjust to the new market. So if you take a look at gross profit also is declining, yet reconditioning costs are rising. As you take a look at how much money I was making per car, that's probably dropping a little bit, or at least stagnating. It's not really going up. And I got to tell you, it won't. The market's not going to allow it to. So what I'd like to try to share with you this morning is get off the gross per car kick and quit talking about gross per car. I used to talk about it. I used to brag about it when you had high grosses per car. Those days are over. And you have to look at now called total gross, or what we call super gross, and all the gross that you earn on a sale of a car. But we've got to go away from sitting around and talking about that gross per car. As a matter of fact, I do the 20 group for NIDA, and I tell dealers right away because they've attended NADA meetings or other 20 group meetings, and right away the composite talks about gross per car. Well, it's mathematically possible to have a high gross per car but still lose money. And you've probably seen that. You can make $4,000 on a car, but then you look at the bottom line, what you paid on net, there's nothing there. So we're more concerned about net profit as opposed to gross profit. And this is true too. We find salespeople are not willing to work as hard as you would like them to work. I'm afraid I have to blame you. The baby boomers screwed our kids up because we told our kids you can do whatever you want, the world is yours, you can be president of the United States, you can be an astronaut. No, they can't. Some of our kids are going to be greeters at Walmart. You know, and it's just a way of life. But we let our kids, we fed them everything. Don't worry about it. We'll give this to you. Here's technology. We'll give that to you. iPad, yeah, we'll give that to you too. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you your first car when you turn 14. And if you hunt, we'll give you a shotgun when you're 12. We gave them everything. We told them they didn't have to work. And now we're complaining because they don't want to work. We did that. We did that. Remember when your father told you years ago, when you think about it, for anyone who's over 50, remember in the old days, your father said, get up, go milk the cow. Well, it's only 3 o'clock in the morning, Dad. I know, we're an hour late. Remember that? You got up in bed, he got you. If you didn't get up in bed, he tore your bed apart with you in it. And when he said, I want you to fix this piece of equipment, you said, how? He told you, figure it out. Just don't cut your fingers off. And we did it, didn't we? Now today, we tell our kids, if you don't know how to do it, don't worry, I'll do it for you. Or we'll hire somebody to do it for you. Well, I'm afraid that's come back to bite us. They don't know how to critically think. And that is not you, it's all over North America. The bottom line is many dealers are losing money still selling used cars. It makes no sense whatsoever. Here we're in a market that's actually selling a lot of used cars throughout the United States, and dealers are losing money, or not making as much ROI as they should. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever, not in today's market. You should be making a ton of money in used cars if you learn how to manage that business. And you don't have to sell a lot of cars either to make a lot of money. You don't need to have 100 cars on your lot to make a lot of money. You can have 25 cars on your lot and make a lot of money. It's a matter of how much money you make and how you control your expenses and how big you choose and how big you want to be. Well, here's what's happening. The government shutdown did hurt a lot of independents. As a result of the government shutdown, it's a shame we actually had to cancel a certified master dealer course in Birmingham because the dealer said they just couldn't do it. It hurt them financially. Well, the number that came out a few weeks ago was the SARS report, showed that the U.S. was headed to sell about 16.5 million new vehicles. As a result of the government shutdown, it looks like the SARS report had to be readjusted, and it looks like we'll probably end up around 15.5, which is what I said in the beginning of the year. I never thought we could hit 16 million anyway. Well, it's still not a bad number considering last year we sold around 14 million. But the good news is we'll probably sell in excess of 32 million used cars. We'll probably sell close to 35 million used cars. So when you sit there and say business is bad, please keep in mind, it's not as bad as you think it is. You're just not getting your piece of it. Now we have to figure out why you're not getting your piece of the pie. But used cars are selling. We're no longer in a market, and we have not been in a market for at least a year and a half, of people who want to buy a used car. You're in a market right now where people need to buy a used car. You're in a need market situation, which is very good for you. In the old days, people just got tired of a car and they wanted to buy something because it kind of needed to be replaced. Today, the average car on the road is over 11 years old. Over 11 years old. When I first got in this business, when I was selling chariots, the average car on the road was approximately 7.9 years old. Now we're past 11. That creates a need market. But people now have broader and wider choices. And that's what I want to talk about today is the market is different than ever before. And the market is here, the market's now, and the market's not like you recognize it. In the old days, we were able to make a lot of mistakes. It was very hard for a consumer to compare used car to used car. They actually had to get in their car and shop and go drive all around town, hit a few dealerships, and finally end up somewhere. That was the old days. We can price our cars whatever we wanted to price. Based upon race, color, creed, sex, or how stupid we thought a customer looked, we can raise the price or lower the price. Do whatever we want. We can cover a lot of negative equity just by raising the price a couple grand. We could do that. As a matter of fact, at the last of the month, if you had a trade-in, you loaded up in a trade because you didn't care, because you knew eventually you would get out of that car. It just allowed us to make a lot of mistakes in the business. So we can do whatever we want to. We didn't have to put prices on cars. We even said we don't want to put a price on a car because that makes the customer have to come into the dealership. And I still hear dealers saying that. Why don't you put a price on your car? Well, if you put a price on your car, then customers have no reason to ask for a salesperson. And what you haven't figured out was if you don't have a price on your car, customers drive away. Do you really go on the internet and look for things, and when you see no price, please click here for a price quote, you actually do it? No, you click and you go on to the next guy who's got a price. You know, information is what we need. So we got to quit playing the games we used to in 1966. Those are old school ways of pricing and old school ways of thinking. You know, you take a look at where we are today, we used to call that an inefficient marketplace, where we had all the answers. We knew what cars were worth. We had control of everything. We controlled cost. We had control of all of the information. It was an inefficient marketplace. Consumers needed us more than ever before, and prices were variable. We didn't really have to react too quickly to the market because you had time. Don't worry about it. Well, guess what? Those days are over and have been over for quite some time. We're now in what we call an efficient marketplace, where the buyers and the sellers have equal information. Whatever you know, I know. There's no secrets anymore. Whatever you think you know, I know. I know what rates are. I know what cars are roughly going for across the U.S. I know that. So you better start treating me differently as an informed consumer, not like the guy who's hard up who just needs a used car, because if you don't treat me nice, I'm going to go somewhere else, because the next guy has a car pretty much like yours. In the old days, we taught salesmen to say, no two used cars are alike. Yeah, they are. The internet says so. I can find a car just like yours with almost the same amount of mileage somewhere. Your car is not that unique like it used to be, with very few exceptions, unless you're in a specialty market. I can find what you have. I may have to travel for it, but if I want it badly enough, I'll do that. So I can find and compare prices very, very easily. As a matter of fact, today you might even see customers in your dealership sitting at your desk and taking out their iPhone and still shopping you in front of you. You've got customers taking out their iPads in front of you. You're going, what the hell? Today's consumer is different. And I hate to disappoint you, but it's not about cars anymore, because cars are cars are cars. We used to say the internet was a race to the bottom. Remember that phrase? I don't like the internet. It's nothing more than a race to the bottom. Good news. Race is over. Bottom's here. You're already here. It's no longer a race to the bottom. The internet has created a situation where the race has finally ended. And car prices, if you're not within fair market price, fair market value, or price to market, you're not going to get any hits anyway. And please remember, most customers, by the way, don't go to your dealership because they're looking for you. No one is looking for you. They're looking for a car. So your brick and mortar facility, sadly, is not your primary facility anymore. There's dealers today who don't even have facilities, working out of warehouses and making a lot of money. They're working in buildings that are tired because customers don't care. They don't want your fancy cookies and beignets and big TVs. They don't want to see all your flower pots and flowers. They want a car. The first dealership that you own, the first dealership that you have, the first dealership you're really managing is on the web. That's the one they see first. And based upon what they see at that level, that's what gets them into the brick and mortar to finalize the deal. And hopefully, the web experience matches the actual experience at the dealership. And sometimes there's a conflict there. So as you take a look at what's happening, this is pretty much what I try giving the dealers an example of this new market. Here we are sitting in his boat, and this is the customer that we're hoping for. I call him the big fat dumb fish. The lay down. The mullet. The dumbass. Everybody wants this guy right here. They want the guy that can make up to $4,000 on easily or better. That's the one we all hope for. That's the one where we ring the gong, high five, play loud music, ring the bells, congratulate our salespeople, pats on the butt, and give them a plaque. Why? Because you found the dumbass. The problem is, there's not many of those dumbasses out there. We're in an efficient marketplace. Years ago, there was lots of them. In Florida, this is your marketplace right here. In Florida, this is where most of you are doing business, in the second level of the pond, between $1,500 maybe up to $3,000. That's your reality here in Florida. What I'm here to share with you is Florida has a much bigger market. But guess what? It's not because it's Florida. It's because now this market represents all of the U.S. There's more fish here. So while you're breaking your back trying to get this guy, there's a couple dealers in this room who figured it out. Go after these fish. There's a lot more of them. And a lot more money to be made in total. So while you're eating one fish, they're eating a lot of fish because they figured it out. So if you take a look at what I'm trying to talk about here, you've got to be able to open up your mind. You've got to be able to think about the way I did business in the past is the past. That's hard. It's a habit. As a matter of fact, the past got you where you are. You become pretty successful. But now it's time to go and become more successful, because if you don't, someone's going to eat your lunch. Someone in this room is going to eat your lunch. And the guy you're sitting next to may be the guy who takes you over if you're not thinking ahead of the game. If you take a look at, well, let's see if I actually include here. I didn't, it's up for it. Okay, we'll do that. You take a look at, this is the biggest challenge I find in independents as I do in franchise dealers, and that's the ability to turn your inventory rapidly. You get stubborn. Some of you have cars in stock that you've already had a birthday on. It's been there for a year. But you tell yourself, there's an ass for every seat. I bought that car right. That's why it's still here. Somebody's going to fall in love with that car, like I did last year. Get the jumper box, we'll drive it. And try to find the keys while you're at it. And fix that flat. Anyone have that car? Yeah. But you're not alone. There were honest people in this room who raised their hands and the others were embarrassed. No, you're just as stupid. You see, the only person who likes that car is you. No one else wants it. That's why if you only have 3, that's amazing. We're looking at the average independent turns their inventory about 4 times a year. That's not good. We hope to see maybe somewhere around 7 or 8, but most independents that I've worked with are around 4. Some are 3. What we try to let you know is that where you're going to start making money is on a 9-time turn. That's where you make money, is turning your inventory at least 9 times a year. You want to make more money? Do 12. You want to make a lot of money? Turn 15. And there are independents today that actually turn inventory 18 times a year. I work with them. A lot of my independents who've gone through the CMD course are turning inventory 15 times a year and are making a lot of money. They finally figured it out. You can actually hold a little bit of inventory, turn that inventory continuously, and make a lot of money. So quit holding on to that one car you fell in love with. No one else wants it. And I've heard all the excuses. I'll tell you what, Joe, I can't replace that car for what I got in it. No shit. That's a nice car. If I saw that car go through the auction, I'd buy it all over again. You're dumb twice. We've said all those things, right? We've said all those things. You just have to find the right person, Joe. We know that. Some of you have been married 4 times trying to find the right person. It's you. The question is, how do you increase turn? First, we have to figure out what's causing it not to turn. And I got to tell you, there are a couple of reasons why inventory doesn't turn. One of the most common reasons why inventory does not turn is it takes too long to get it reconditioned. It can take 7 days, 10 days to get a car out there getting reconditioned. That's way too long. So that's the first thing that happens. How long is it taking you to get a car reconditioned? Second of all, what's the vehicle look like? And I'll show you some pictures I actually took off of dealers' lots. That may be an answer. Not being priced to market will cause a car not to turn. So if you want to increase turn, you have to be priced to market. What's priced to market? Anywhere between 94% up to, but no more than 101% of fair market value. So as long as you're within 94% up to, but no more than 101% of fair market value, it'll turn. The other is presentation. We have salespeople who don't know the inventory. I find it impossible. You got a car in stock for 64 days. You ask a salesman, tell me about that car. They don't know anything about it. How the hell can you have a car in stock for 64 days, which you shouldn't, and still not know anything about it? It makes no sense whatsoever. So it could be the sales team as well. So let's tap on that, because those are valid questions. Again, I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll wise up. But I wanted to show you how big this turn thing really is. On the left-hand side is a dealer who actually represents a 5-time turn, pretty much around the average of an independent. And this dealer hopes to sell 30 cars. But it takes 72 cars in stock and at a 5-time turn in order to do that. If a dealer is turning his inventory 9 times a year to sell 30, he needs 40 units in stock. Well, you take a look at independents, it's all about cash. This is what it really boils down to, is the 32-car difference at an average cost of $9,100 per unit. You would have to go and floor plan, borrow, beg, or put up your own cash an additional $293,000. That's the problem we don't have turn. It takes a lot of your capital, which you would rather be investing in the free marketplace. That's the problem. So you say, well, what's this big deal about turn? It doesn't cost me anything. As a matter of fact, Joe, I hear that a lot. It doesn't cost me anything. I don't floor plan. Are you kidding me? Of course it costs you something when you don't floor plan. You're not using that capital to earn you money. Your money is sitting out there on the lot, and the market's changing. That inventory is not even worth what you thought it was worth. If you're not turning that inventory, guess what? You're paying higher insurance premiums on overinflated valuation of that inventory. And if you're paying ad valorem tax or federal taxes, you're paying taxes on the value of an overstated inventory. So you're paying your government too much, and you're paying too much insurance. and you actually think you're worth that much. You're not. It's a depreciating commodity. But this is the big deal. And this is why dealers who understand turn have a lot more cash to work with than you do. Some of us are trying to pay bills every Friday. You're trying to make payroll every Friday. Well, you say, I sold cars. I don't get it. How can I not have cash? Because your cash is tied up in inventory. It's sitting out there on a lot. That's why you can't pay your bills. During the recession, 2008, we lost a lot of independents. We probably lost during a recession in excess of 7,000 independents. Not because they were bad people. They ran out of cash. They couldn't run their business. They had no cash to pay their bills. Their cash was tied up on the ground. And MasterCard and Visa has no clue what you got on the ground, and they don't care. They just want to know, can you pay me? You don't need more floor plan money, people. You need to understand how to turn an inventory so you can get a floor plan to make you money. You don't get floor plan to buy more cash to sit on the shelf. And these are actual pictures of cars sitting on the front line of dealership slots. This is not one car. This is 6. If I popped the hood, this car was on the front line of a dealer's lot. Front line! Look at that engine. Filthy. And that's on the front line. This one had a cracked passenger mirror. Are you kidding me? Front line. This had fungus and mold growing in that little spot in that corner when you open the trunk. Seriously? Dirty. This one blew my mind. Look at this. Filth here on the bumper area. Throw the floor mats in the back. What drove me crazy was actually this one. Those are scratch marks in the roof of the car. Now, how the hell heel marks got in the roof of a car? I don't know. I'm suspicious, but I don't know. That's the headrest. These are front line ready. So you want to know what speeds up turn? Stop this nonsense. That'll speed up your turn. And I asked the dealer, what is that? He said, well, you know, they should have cleaned that. Of course they should have cleaned that. Well, you know, no, I don't know. I should talk to my guy. You think? It just amazes me. You can't fix stupid. And you cannot put in what God left out. And instead of wholesaling cars, think today's cars, I said, are over 11 years old. Today's consumer, by the way, today's consumer, especially your young consumers, mileage doesn't bother them. The older the customer, the more mileage sensitive they are because they remember the old days. Today's younger people do not mind buying a 100,000 plus car. It doesn't bother them. You have a very conscientious, eco-friendly consumer today in that young person. You can sell them a 200,000 mile car. It doesn't bother them. As long as the car runs, they think it's economically feasible to operate, they don't care. My daughter just bought a Honda Odyssey. That's what she said was her dream van. She has kids. I said, that car has over 100,000 miles on it when you bought it. She says, yeah. I said, can I ask you why you bought it? She says, it's a Honda. That was her answer. It was a Honda. Like it was invincible. That's because her mother's Honda, which was a 2000, had over 200,000 miles on it. My wife, it took 13 years to get her out of that car. She loves it. I just had to buy her a new one. Only because I said, you're hurting my reputation. The neighbors see you in that. And she told me, that's your problem. So one day I went out and bought her a new one. It's still my problem, by the way. But we take a look at, think before you wholesale a car, before you dump a car and lose money on it, try to retail yourself out of it. Try to pick up at least recovery reconditioning cost. Try to recover F&I off of it. You want to capture market penetration, keep a customer, and you want to be able to possibly take in a trade. So before you let anything go, remember, if someone is willing to buy that car, if you say, I can take that car to the auction, I can get out of it, I might lose a couple grand, but I might should do that. Think about it first. Why am I able to wholesale it? Because someone else wants it. Why does someone else want it? Because they can sell it, which means you can too. So don't panic. Look at the car closely all over again. It's either a retail piece or it's garbage. If it's garbage, get rid of it. But if it's a retail piece, quit kidding yourself, mark it down to retail price. Pay your salesperson a fair commission, not a flat mini of $100. Pay them a fair commission, their average commission perhaps, and try to recover what you got in it. But keep market penetration. You don't want that car to end up back in your market when you wholesale to some other dealer who will fire it right back in your marketplace. It doesn't make sense. So as you take a look at traditionally, this is what we do. We try to hold out for the big fat dumb fish, and you sell 10 cars at $2,000 a pop. That's not a bad deal. But please also remember, if you do the reconditioning in your store, if you do the reconditioning is not an expense, it's your profit. Remember that. This is when we talk about the super gross. If a dealer does their own reconditioning, that's money in the house. Your only hard expense are parts and labor. The rest has markup, that's your profit. And if you F&I this car, there's your roughly $800 per copy. Some of you are more, this may be less, that may be more. And if you have a service facility, this customer, we know for a fact, this is not a random number, the average consumer has 2 service visits a year at the average of $200. So on 10 cars, approximately, that's not a bad deal. I pulled these numbers from some dealerships. But if you look at a dealership who understands velocity, who understands rapid movement, the picture changes very rapidly. And you look at more total gross, or what we call super gross. So here we got $44,000, but if a dealer says, you know what, I'm going after the bigger market. I'm not saying just drop your pants and cut the gross. I'm just saying be market sensitive and price to market. It's not about gross per car. I don't want to brag about gross per car. I'd rather brag about my net profit, what goes in my pocket. That's a better number. When you take a look at, here's 20 sales, doubling it, dropping the gross at half, but look at all of the difference it would make. And certainly there's modifications to this. But it's total gross we're looking for. And under this model, by the way, you might have to think about a different compensation plan for your salespeople. Today's dealers rarely pay commission on gross. They rarely do that anymore because gross is dropping. Most of today's successful dealers pay on volume. You keep better salespeople that way, you move more cars that way, you get more total gross that way. So you have to look at changing compensation. And certainly you can have bonuses for a total gross at the end of the month, but quit focusing on gross per. You know why? Because when I go in dealerships, it's not unusual. I see a salesperson working a customer. A few moments later, I turn around, the customer's gone. I ask the salesman, what happened to your customer? The guy was a jerk. He's trying to steal the car. I couldn't make any money on him. You've got salesmen who make the decision to turn down deals for you because they think they can't make money on it. They want to hold out for the big fat dumb fish that may walk in. So you've got salespeople actually causing you to lose business or turn because they're deciding what their commission's worth, as opposed to the dealership saying, that's my prospect, I pay for that prospect to come in. So when you look at this velocity strategy, it's amazing when you take a look at the total dollars that can be made just on a more rapid turn. And we haven't even talked about what it would cost, but look at the annual impact here. The annual impact, this is not bad when you look at what you're only out for gross. But when you take a look at the velocity method, there's a lot more total gross involved on an annual basis. And this is what my clients understand. This is what certified master dealers understand. Turn the inventory, turn the dollars, let it make more money for you in a shorter period of time so that you're not having to floor plan just to have more cars in inventory, but you're floor planning to grow your business. Floor plan is good if used properly. Floor plan is bad if it's not used properly and force you to pay all those curtailments because you got cars in inventory. Makes no sense. So if you really took the gross you thought you made, by the time you subtract your curtailments, the lack of use of that money over that time period, you didn't make as much as you thought you did anyway. Now, why am I such a big advocate of keeping cars clean and getting them reconditioned faster? It's because of women. Women are buying more used cars than men do. Women are influential. Anyone married knows that. Ask a man, let's go out. Well, I've got to call my wife first. I thought you were a man. Ooh, that's a neat shotgun. You ought to buy it. Got to ask my wife first. I thought you were a man. I watched the guy. He must have tapped at 350 pounds. No hair, had the slick scalp. Just a big burly guy. And I think he had 2 jailhouse tats on his knuckles. And I was watching this in a dealership, and he was looking at an F-150. It was a man's truck. It was a manly man's truck. And this guy was huge. He looked like he could rip you apart just looking at you. You'd want him in a fight in the bar with you. And I got to tell you, he was looking at the truck, and he had the most petite wife, just a tiny little thing, which is almost typical, stereotypical. And the salesman says, well, what do you think? He goes, I got to ask my wife. It was all I could do but laugh. And he turned to the sweet little girl and said, honey, what you think? She goes, I don't like the color. She don't like the color. I broke out in hysterics. 350. She may have weighed 120 soaking wet. And he turned this sweet little thing and asked her opinion. Women are very influential. And if you don't admit that, you're probably married 4 or 5 times. Women are very influential. 23% of U.S. housewives out-earn their husbands. In 1976, it was only 6%. And you know that. You've got salespeople working for you who aren't making as much money as their significant others. 57% earned a bachelor's degree. 60% of master's degrees are all earned by women. They're even smarter than us. They just let us think we're smart. You're so smart and strong. Move that rock. Okay. Women tend to purchase less expensive vehicles than men do. They're rationals, thinkers. They have a lot of data rattling in their head. Guys make a lot of emotional decisions. Women will hold off a little bit and wait until they get more facts. That's why we need influential salespeople, knowledgeable salespeople. That's why we need to have a lot of information on the internet so they can do that research. The more information you have, the more likely it is they'll persuade. So look at your sales team. When you think of your sales team, I go to dealerships, all I see are guys. Every once in a while, you find a dealership where there's one female, token female in there. Or the switchboard operator, because they all have to be female. Or the girls in the back office, they have to be female. Women make outstanding salespeople. If you have not met Gina Fuzzi, she's a dynamo. Women make much better salesmen because women do what men don't. Women listen. Men don't listen. Right? Yeah. So if 84% of retail buying decisions at the car level are influenced by females, think about that sales staff. So when you look at marketing, marketing and advertising are 2 different things. Advertising is that message. Marketing is the emotion of that message. Marketing means everything, from the way your place looks, the way your place smells. I see parking lines that haven't been painted since 1967. I see the smoking wall where salesmen have their feet up against the wall outside. I see banners laying around that are tattered and torn, looks like they've been through the war. Lights that don't work. Chain links that haven't been painted in a long time. Again, look at your business for the first time. People buy emotionally. We buy visually. So take a look at your facility and take a look at your sales staff. What do they look like? And think about what customers want to see. Now, no offense, but I got to tell you, I know it's hot here in Florida. I sold cars. I sold Buicks in Jacksonville, Florida. I sold cars for 8 years at Jacksonville, Florida. At that time, we were required to wear jackets. And it was hot. Don't wear shorts. Ladies, do you like to see a salesman in shorts? Then why do you let your husbands allow their sales team to do it? No one wants to look at hairy, knobby legs. You say, well, I want my people comfortable. Your people are comfortable. I would rather have my people working. Well, we're like a family here. Wouldn't you rather have a sales team here instead of your family? And I hear it all the time. Well, we're a family here. We like treat people like family here. They're happy. Of course they're happy. She's Facebooking. He's shopping on the internet. Of course they're happy. They're deliriously happy. Haven't you ever found yourself working harder than your employees that you pay? They're sitting there relaxed in the air conditioning, you're outside sweating. Your customers really don't like those shorts. Not because Joe Lescota says so, because I do focus groups, and they say they don't like those shorts. They don't want to see your nasty, gnarly little toes either in sandals. Think about the customers. Quit thinking about yourselves and quit thinking about how your employees feel. Think about the consumer and what they feel. Just think about it. If not, your competition is thinking about it for you. Again, big deal. 50.5% of licensed drivers were women in 2012, compared to 39.6 in 1963. That's because most guys insist on doing the driving when they're drunk. And the University of Michigan says it's going to get even more so. More women licensed. So that's why I'm trying to let you get a heads up and think shorts were fine a few years back when men did all the buying, but I got to tell you, you got a very influential female market out there, and they want a different type of salesperson. It's not about the car anymore. I'll find your car online. I'll find it somewhere. And don't forget the Hispanics, number one minority group in this market. Yet I go to dealerships, I can't find bilingual salespeople. I go to your websites, it says si habla español, but everything's in English. Do you have a blog in Spanish? Do you have a website that converts to Spanish? If you truly want to reach the Hispanic market, then your website needs to be offered in Spanish completely. You need to have a bilingual receptionist who can answer the phone and speak to a guest in Spanish, if that's your market. And I believe Florida's got a few of them. So ask yourself, why am I struggling? There's dealerships today that actually have salespeople that represent up to 12 different languages to address that sort of varied market. Vietnamese, Chinese, Spanish. Think about all the different dialects that you may have in your marketplace. Yet you insist on only speaking English. You say, well, they're here, they should be speaking English. Guess what? They're not. So either you move with it or they move without you. You make those decisions. The other thing I like to talk about is what I call fantasy pricing, and think about improper pricing, because you ask, how do I increase turn? Pricing is important, and the way you price is important, especially if you want to keep gross and attract the market. So you have to understand consumer thinking. This is not about you, and I said these things too. You try to think of the psychology. It's nice, but you're thinking about the wrong psychology. For example, this is what I call pretend pricing. $12,999. Okay, guys, let's be honest with ourselves. You just bought something your wife was against, like one of that 52-inch TV. The price of it was $1,799. $1,799. How much did you tell your wife it was? $1,700. $1,700. We lie. We didn't even tell her the tax. How much was dinner last night? $100. Yeah, before tips and taxes. We round, right, guys? Guess what? Your customers are doing the same thing. When a customer sees your price of $12,999, guess how much they're thinking that car is? 12 grand. They lob the $999 off. They give themselves an automatic $999 discount right off the bat. So if you want to keep gross, then you have to move towards what we call flat-based pricing. Now this one actually makes you very uncomfortable because you think of the psychology of that $999, because we think customers are stupid and a dollar difference is going to wow them. It doesn't work that way. They lob off the $999. And that's where you go, so what? We're talking about 12 grand here, right? That's exactly what goes through a consumer's mind. So when the customer gives himself this $999 discount, there's where your gross goes, and this is where negotiation starts. I have attempted to get many of my clients to move towards flat-based pricing, and I got to tell you, the results are very favorable. If they were not, I would not bring it up in this meeting, because I will not present anything to you that I have not personally tested, that has not actually worked in the marketplace. I don't believe in wasting your time with theory. But when I get my clients to go to flat-based pricing, there's a huge difference in the amount of profitability. Price your car at $13,000. even. And by the way, you'll get more searches for that car online. Because if someone kicks in, I'm looking for a car between $13,000 and $15,000, you're knocked out by $1. And by the way, psychologically, that's more difficult to negotiate. It's much more difficult for a consumer to negotiate off of $13,000. Very easy to lob off $999 immediately. So there's two flat-based prices I recommend. One is either $13,000 or $12,500. Not $12,586. And so, well, shouldn't it be like an odd number, $12,586 and 22 cents? No, that's an old school theory. It kind of worked. It doesn't hold water today. $12,500 or $13,000. At $12,500, even that's much more difficult to negotiate than $999. I will tell you here and tell you now, based on the results of my clients over the last 6 months, that works. Not because I say so, because we have proof it works. Try it. Try it. And by the way, how many have actually had a customer that came in and says, I got to tell you, I had no intention of buying a car today until I saw that gorilla. My wife and I were going to go out and buy a bag of rutabagas, and I saw the gorilla and said, sweetie, we got to get a car. Or the inflatable condoms with the ticklers on the end blowing in the wind. I love those. Those are really awesome. See, it's not about the gorilla, it's about net on sales. So one of the things I teach my certified master dealers is to understand the concept of net profit, not gross profit. So if you think about where are you, and most dealers, I got to tell you, can't even tell me what their net on sales is. Ask yourself, do you know what your net profit on sales is? Not gross profit, net profit. What is your net on sales? You should know that number, and ideally, we'd like to see you around 8% net on sales. But when I see dealers across the U.S., I find that many dealers are less than 2% net on sales. So yes, you're making gross, but your expenses are not in line, so that gross goes out the window. You're not keeping it on the bottom. This is probably more realistic. In some cases, you have a negative net profit. You haven't made any money yet, and that's a shame. Well, what does this mean? How does it impact the way I make decisions? Well, the simple calculation is we take your net profit before taxes. We just go to the bottom line of your financial statement. We look at your net profit before taxes. And then I divide that by your total sales dollars. And by the way, you can do this by department, used cars, service, parts, leasing, or do it for the entire dealership, however you'd like to do it. But the net profit before taxes divided by your total sales dollars, not gross profit, I'm stressing net profit here. That will give you a percentage. That's your net on sales. That's how much you got to keep for every $1,000 that you've earned. In some cases, it's not a lot. So there's my net profit, $12,000. My total sales was $984, which meant my net on sales was 1.21%. Well, let's say I want to buy that gorilla, and that gorilla is $800. You have a gorilla, don't you? No, we have a dinosaur. Yeah, the dinosaur is really cool too. I spent $800 on it. My net on sales is 1.2%. When you divide that $800 by 1.2%, guess what? You've got to generate $66,000 in sales to recover that expense. In the old days, we said, well, if you pay $800 for something, my gross is $900. Hell, that's only half a car. You start rationalizing gross. You got to get out of that gross mind, start thinking the net mind. So you'd have to sell 6 cars at $11,500 just to recover $800. And this is the message I try to beat into my CMDs when we go over your individual financial statements. The certified master dealer candidates come to class, they bring their financial statements, they bring their financial data, and we rip it apart to teach you how to interpret your numbers and how to keep more of the money that you're making. That's what it's about. You spend 3 days out of your life, become a certified master dealer, and you walk out knowing more than most dealers do in North America. And you're able to have better conversations with your employees, your banks, and your CPA. So ask yourself, what language are you speaking? Again, some dealers say, well, a gorilla only cost me half a car. That's a crock. It's a crock. when you deal by profit. The employees who use your postage stamps to mail their MasterCard and Visa, that's only 46 cents. What the hell? All the things that you buy in a dealership, look at all the money you spend. How much money you're getting back on that investment. That's what we look at. That's what's talking about profitability. So quit talking in terms of gross and start talking in terms of net. That's how you get paid. If you're just talking gross, the only person that makes money in a dealership are your employees, not you. So focus on net, or what, as I say, the bottom line, money in the bank, Missoula, Gita, stash, whatever you want to call it. You call it what you want, but it's got to be called net profit. And quit bragging about the gross. Gross is good, net is better. Every one of you have had customers made $100,000 a year, and they can't finance a car because they spend $150,000 a year. Every one of you know a customer makes $40,000 a year, has a 790 Beacon, because they understand how to manage their income. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep of what you make that counts. That's the big deal. So when I talk about this ROI, I'm trying to give an example here because of your stubbornness. Well, gee, Joe, a customer makes me an offer. Here's the offer. I just got this car. It's a nice car. I know what it's worth. It ought to make the money because I bought it right. That's a nice car. But a salesman brings you an offer and says, look, boss, the guy made me an offer. It's a $1,123 deal. Should I take it? Pass. Why? Because it's a moneymaker. I know that car will bring more. And lo and behold, you finally sell it, and it does make you more. But what you have to look at is not the gross, but look at gross per day. What do I mean by that? Well, in this example here, if a customer brings you an offer in 18 days, if you divide 18 into that initial gross profit, that's gross profit of $51 a day. But if it takes you 63 days to make this, yes, you made this, but it only made you $34 a day. Quit looking at the total. Look at ROI, return on investment. Because quite frankly, what it really looks like is this. In that same time period of 63 days, I could have sold 4 cars, plus 4 F&Is. So there's $4,400 in gross, almost $4,500 in gross, plus $3,200 for $7,632 versus $2,174 plus $800 or $2,974. You see if this makes sense? Total gross or super gross, not gross per car. This gives you bragging rights. This gives you profit. Bragging rights, profit. Bragging rights, profit. Pick one. And everybody knows that one guy who brags about, and he still wears his varsity high school jacket, and he's 46 years old. He's sitting at the diner all by himself, because nobody will marry him, talking about if the coach would just have put me in, we'd be all state by now. As a matter of fact, my trophy from 1971 is still in the high school showcase. Dude, you're 47, living in your mother's basement. But he's bragging about how good he was in high school. Anybody know that guy? Lives in the past. He's broke. Gross, net. Gross, net. You pick. And if you'd like to figure out where your net profit is, and you did some quick calculations, may I suggest at the very least you hit a 4% net. Because if you cannot increase your sales, and that's why I tell my certified master dealers, I can't tell you how to control your market, but I can tell you that you can do a better job with existing sales. In this demonstration, I take, if your sales were $984,000, if you multiply that by a minimum net earnings potential of 4%, that's how much net you would make over what your current net was, just by improving expense control, without selling one more car. In the old days, we said, you know what, you just sell more cars, it cures everything. I'll tell you what we need more customers, and if we sold more cars, we would do okay. You got to keep remembering the cost to sell. And just selling more cars doesn't necessarily fix your problem. It may actually end up putting you more in debt. You've got to start controlling your business and take the business back. You need to start becoming managers of your business. You need to know what's going on. Watch what's going on. It's not about the sales. It's watching what's going on with those sales. If you're so involved in a selling process because it's fun, I can agree with that. But if you're not watching the business and you're trusting your accountants, you don't think accountants steal from you? I can give you tons of stories because I was an expert witness in a few of those stories where accountants steal. You know why? Because you let them. You know why you let them? Because you don't know your own numbers. You're trusting someone else to manage your business. Doesn't make sense. So if you want to increase turn, take a look at your aged inventory. Now, by definition, aged cars are any cars over 60 days old. That's an industry-accepted norm. Not my norm. It's an industry-accepted norm is 60 days with an asterisk. Today's successful dealer that's making a high return on investment has a 45-day age policy and no cars over 45 days. There's a difference. Industry says 60. Some of you say 90, which it's not. But today's successful dealers have a new norm, and it's called 45. So 45 is the new age, not because I say so, because that's the moneymaker. And car prices are fluctuating too much. So take a look. Are you trying to advertise and just get people in the door? Or are you spiffing more, incentivizing more? Does your inventory look like hell? Dusty, dirty? I go on dealers' lots, I find competitors' names on the back of the car because someone didn't scrape it off. I find license plate frames with the names of competitors because someone wouldn't take it off. Are you kidding me? Really? Cracked windshields, and those pictures like I showed you before. No prices. No FTC stickers. The used car stickers. Are you rebuilding cars after you deliver them on policy adjustment? You sell a car, but because it's so old, it had lot rot. And the car keeps coming back. Phone calls keep coming in. Emails keep coming in about how the car's falling apart. It's leaking oil, wind noise, making noises, squeaking. Brakes are chattering. So you're fixing things after the sale. So yes, you're bragging about your gross up front, but that gross is being eroded because of after the fact. And because you've got so many cars on the lot, you're reluctant to take in customers' trades. And by the way, it's going to shock you how many customers don't even know you take in trades. I am flabbergasted. So make sure on your websites you clearly let people know, we take in trades. It needs to be up there, slap them in the face with it. It needs to be on your building, we take in trades. It'll shock you how many consumers have no clue that you can take in a trade. I was amazed by that. They think they have to sell the car themselves. Don't make any assumptions. Your older generation knows, your young generation does not. You've got people coming to the U.S. for the first time. This is a different culture for them. Doing business in Mexico, doing business in Spain, doing business in Vietnam, doing business in China is nothing like doing business in the U.S. Make no assumptions. You've got to tell people the selling and buying process, and it should be clearly laid out. On your website, there should be a key that says how to buy a vehicle, what you'll need to know. Just like when someone takes their first cruise. There's first cruise tips. Here's what you need to bring with you. When you came here, you wanted to figure out, how do I dress? What do I do? What's included? What's not included? And someone told you that. And you assume that customers know how to buy a car. It'll shock you how many of today's consumers do not know how to buy a car. And that's half the battle. I've got price information. I've got payment information. Do I buy the tag? Do you buy the tag? Do I have to go in line for the tag, or do you go in line for the tag? I owe something on my car. Who handles that? Do I have to pay the car off first? Make no assumptions. This is a football. Tell customers how to do it step by step. Now, if you want to calculate your total ROI, and then we'll wrap up, you want to calculate your total ROI. So how much net did you make? for the previous 3 months. What's your net profit for the previous 3 months? Month number 1, month number 2, and month number 3. How much net profit? Add it up. Now, calculate your average inventory investment over the last 3 months. I kept $300,000, $400,000, and $300,000. Add it up and divide by 3 for an average inventory amount. So what you're going to do is take that total profit average, total profit, divided by your average inventory. That'll give you a quarterly ROI. Take your quarterly ROI, multiply by 4, and that's your anticipated annual ROI. Then ask yourself, is that good? Well, what should ROI be, Joe? Your ROI should be what that money could make you in the free market. And right now, that money can make you an easy 13%. Well, you're a high-risk business. We would expect your annualized ROI to be in excess of 13% right now. You're going to be disappointed. You got in this business to make money, not to raise another family of employees and say, we have a nice family. You got in business to become profitable. You are entrepreneurs. Act like it. It's a high-risk business. It deserves a high rate of return. And ask yourself, why am I putting in these hours? Why am I dealing with the state and federal regulations and laws? Why are there all these workshops on legal issues? Why am I have to put up all this CEU nonsense? Why am I missing recitals, plays, football games to do this business? Why is my health crappy? Because of this business. Because you're an entrepreneur and you decided to make a reasonable ROI. What's yours? Any questions? Any questions? Unfortunately, my time is up. So much to say, so little time, but it's 10:34. I'm 4 minutes over. So I would like to ask everyone right now, if you have any questions, I'll take the floor for, yes. Yes. Okay. Well, let's back it up then. I use the number 9 as the minimum number of times inventory should turn. 9 is the minimum number of times. The formula, by the way, we do this 2 ways. First of all, let's figure out how many cars you should sell. You have a calculator in front of you? Do you? Okay. Type in how many cars you sell per month on average. 32, 22, 12, whatever that is. Got it? Multiply that times 9. Now divide that by 12. I apologize. I asked you the wrong number. Sorry, I went backwards. You got me. How many cars do you have in stock? Let's start all over again. How many cars do you have in stock? Write that number down. How many cars do you have in stock? All right. Now multiply by 9 and divide by 12. That's how many cars you should sell based upon that much inventory per month, at the very least. So how much inventory you have times 9, minimum number of times inventory should turn, divided by 12, 12 months in a year. That's how many cars you should sell each month. Now we can reverse that formula to tell you how many cars you should stock. So when I teach my CMDs, I ask my CMDs, let's go to formula number 2. How many cars on average do you sell each month? 10, 12, 32, or 42. Write that number down. Now instead of multiplying by 9, divide by 9. So I sell, on average, 32 cars a month. Divide by 9, multiply that times 12. And that's how many cars you need to stock. Now compare that to your actual stock. It's possible they might not come out right if you're turning more than 9, and we'd have to figure that out. The calculation is how many cars on average do you sell per month? In our store, for example, we sell 35 cars a month. Divide that number by 9. And then multiply that number times 12. And that will tell you how many cars you should stock to sell that many cars each month. Now compare that to how many cars you actually stock, and that's your overage. That's how many too many cars you have. You have a question back there? I see it. Got it? Yeah. Vomit bags available upon request. If the answers don't come out right, do yourselves a favor. Become a certified master dealer.